of 2021, he posted his second to last YouTube video ever titled "I Crashed My Plane." Here is the video.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys have been new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scarce and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. I just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man, commenting down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video drop. You guys help growing the community. I really appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Seek the truth.
Why you should never do this. This is 17-year-old Michael Dumas. He was on a church trip to Florida with some of his friends. While on this trip, they went to Pompano Beach, and he would be buried in the sand as you see here. He'd soon be unburied and all would be well until later that night when he would wake up in the middle of the night and be itching like crazy and sweating. At first, this would be labeled as an ear infection and he would be sent home with drops, but it would soon be obvious that that's not what it was, as he started to develop these raised, bumpy rashes. And he became pretty lethargic, just wanting to sleep all the time. It got even worse to the point where he was having these big, nasty blisters. And that's when he'd finally be diagnosed with cutaneous larva migrans, which is pretty much dog or cat hookworm. So pretty much these work by the dog or the cat pooping in the sand and contaminating it, and then not long after, these microscopic larvae hatch, and then you step in this contaminated sand and you end up looking like Michael. After all of this, he ended up developing a staph infection as well, and if it's not bad enough just him getting infected, 5 others from this trip got infected with hookworm as well.
Normal looking photos with disturbing backstories, part 2. This Snapchat was the last photo ever taken of Sydney Loof, a woman who was killed by her Tinder date. Her body was cut into 14 different pieces, and when it was brought back to the morgue, it was in 6 different bags. This man was transferring oxygen tanks for 12 boys and their coach. He didn't have enough oxygen for himself, however, and died after losing consciousness in one of the cave's passageways. This man is Issei Sagawa, an actual cannibal from Japan. This photo was taken by a Japanese magazine after he was released from prison for insanity. The man in this photo, Franklin Floyd, married a woman and had custody over her children while she was in prison for 30 days. The girl in this photo is one of her children, whom Floyd kidnapped to start a new life with. He left the other siblings behind, and after this photo was taken, he went to another state, changed both of their names, and claimed her as his biological daughter. Later, he went on to marry her.
Sorry
World
to
is a weird place.
The former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO was just arrested on serious charges and will probably be in prison for the rest of his life. So this is 80-year-old Mike Jeffries, the A&F CEO from 1992 to 2014. You might recognize him because he's been in hot water before, when an interview resurfaced from 2006. Where basically he said he wants cool, attractive people wearing A&F, and that fat, old, unattractive people can go somewhere else. In 2004, there was a class action lawsuit brought by minority employees who said that they were denied employment or forced to work in the back so customers didn't see them. A&F paid $40 million to settle that case. In 2005, there was some controversy surrounding shirts that read, quote, "Who needs a brain when you have these? Gentlemen prefer tickle bitties," and "Do I make you look fat?" So now let's get to the criminal allegations. Mike Jeffries, along with his partner and another man, were arrested yesterday. It is alleged that from 2008 to 2015, these men operated an international trafficking ring. Jeffries and others paid dozens of men to travel to various locations to hold these parties, basically equivalent to Diddy's freak-offs. And these young, vulnerable men were led to believe that this could lead to modeling opportunities and benefit their career. But when they arrived, all their personal items were taken, including cell phones, wallets, and clothing, and they were required to sign NDAs. Victims were injected with drugs, and even when they could not consent or did not consent, Jeffries and his partner would arbor them personally or use objects. The youngest victim was 19 years old, but it's believed that many more victims have yet to come forward. Mike Jeffrey and the other defendants face a minimum of 35 years in prison, which is a life sentence for the 80-year-old Mike Jeffries. However, he is free right now because he paid a $10 million bond.
These CEOs, man. How many more crooked CEOs in the world have to be exposed? You know, it's a long list. Whew. Be careful, man. Gotta keep our eyes sharp out here in these streets.
She must have been out of her head.
Not long after this woman vanished, all hell broke loose. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. 35-year-old Crystal Rogers was living with her boyfriend Brooks Huck and her children. On July 3rd, 2015, Brooks woke up and noticed that Crystal wasn't in bed and her car wasn't in the driveway. 2 days had gone by and no word from Crystal was given, until they found her car parked alongside the Bluegrass Parkway with a flat tire, the keys in ignition, and purse and phone in the passenger seat. Almost immediately, Crystal's family suspected her boyfriend Brooks. What's interesting is 16 months later, Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, was hunting where an unknown subject fired a shot, hitting and unaliving him. Police are still looking for Crystal and also who unalived her father, and they believe the two cases are connected.
What do you guys think, Seekers?
Weirdest kid toys ever, part 24. So next up we got some bubbles. And it's like a sword. You dip it in like the thing with all the bubble solution crap, and then blah blah blah, you blow your bubbles. But if you take a nice close look at the thing that holds the bubbles, it looks like a nice old dude.
This is why I will never understand fraternities or hazing or anything of that nature. This guy right here, his name was Danny, and he was 18 years old, attending the University of Missouri, not knowing that this one particular fraternity hazing event would lead to his life being forever changed. Now, this happened in 2021, and he was forced to drink 1 liter of vodka by himself, and he was seen on CCTV footage being carried downstairs. Now, this had happened after he was being forced to go into a thing of broken glass, leaving him basically in crutches. But this particular evening, he was caught on CCTV footage being carried around onto a couch on CCTV footage, and then he was being dragged into a car, and I think he fell out the car at one point. And then he was taken to the hospital. At this point, he was already in cardiac arrest by the time he had got to the hospital. He was in a coma for a long time. He finally was able to get out of the coma. Unfortunately, he lost his ability to see, brain function, and this is him now, y'all. This is so sad. Please do not let fraternity, hazing, or any of that kind of stuff affect your life, because this is crazy to me. Like, this is not hazing. This is torture.
Creepy games from...
She was spitting facts, man. Like I said, some of those hazings, they're not even hazing. They're just shit seems like it's a torture scheme. When people trying to do that to fit and be cool, man, I'm cool off that. When it gets too extreme, y'all got that. I'm out. I'm my own person, man. I'm not going through all that crazy crap just so a bunch of people I know can accept me. If you can't accept me for who I am, why would I want to be friends with you?
From around the world, part 1. South Korea's The Elevator Game, which will supposedly take you to a whole nother dimension. The only thing you need for this game is an elevator, a building with 10 floors, and to be alone. So get in the elevator on the 1st floor, then push the 4th floor. Once you get to the 4th floor, don't get out. Push the 2nd floor. Once you get to the 2nd floor, push the 6th floor. Once you get to the 6th floor, push the 2nd floor. Once you get to the 2nd floor, push the 10th floor. Once you get to the 10th floor, push the 5th floor. That's when a woman may enter. Don't look at her, don't talk to her. Then push the 1st floor. If you start going up to the 10th floor, then you know it worked. Once you get to the 10th floor and get out, the woman may ask you, where are you going? Don't answer, but you'll know you've made it there because you're the only living thing there. But the hardest part isn't getting there, it's getting back.
Imagine dropping your child at school.
I won't be playing that.
A day like any other. But instead of being called to pick her up, you're called to pick up her body. Here's what we know. On Wednesday, the 7th of August, after failing to return home after school, 16-year-old Devaney Null was reported missing. After a later police search of the Overberg High School premises, however, her body was discovered in a storage room. In the aftermath of the disturbing discovery, the school has been closed today, the 8th of August, and counseling services have been offered to both students as well as their parents. A murder case has also been opened, and the investigation has been transferred to the Provincial Serious and Violent Crimes Team. Anyone with information about the crime can contact Investigating Officer Leon, or alternatively the Crime Stop hotline. As always, I'll be sure to keep you updated.
As the renewed search
School,
for the
though?
missing Beaumont children reached its fourth day today, the brothers who said the prime suspect hired them to dig a grave-like hole at the site in 1966 have come to assist. So in 1966, Robin and David Harkin were paid by the prime suspect in the case, Harry Phipps, to dig a grave-like hole at the former Castlereagh factory that's southwest of Adelaide, not far from the beach where the Beaumont children disappeared, and this happened only days after the children went missing. The Harkin brothers were boys at the time, and they didn't really think anything of it until 2013 when a documentary featuring the missing Beaumont children was aired, and it discussed Harry Phipps as a potential suspect. Phipps didn't become a serious suspect until 2004 when he passed away and his son Hayden made allegations about him and about the day the Beaumont children disappeared. So when the brothers saw this documentary talking about the children and Harry Phipps, they recalled this hole that he paid them to dig just days after the children went missing. Over the years, there have been a few searches at this property, but to no avail. But on Saturday, an excavation of the property was organized by independent MP Frank Pancallo. This new dig is taking place before the government-owned land is sold to developers, and it is due to stop on March 1st. Pangallo said this new search is far more intensive than previous digs by police of the same site. Earlier this week, they discovered a hardened slab that was buried deep beneath the dirt that had never been found before. And then on day 4, the Harkin brothers arrived to assist. Pangallo said the information provided by the Harkin brothers has changed the direction of the dig, saying, quote, "The brothers were able to pinpoint the position they thought they had dug the hole. They provided a lot of useful information. They've given us a lot more clarity on where to dig. This dig is only set to continue through this weekend, so hopefully something is found and the Beaumont children can finally be found and their family and the community can finally have answers about what happened to them."
Justice
the
for
couple
them.
behind me are 38-year-old Crystal Turner and 24-year-old Caitlin Schultz. They were a married couple who absolutely loved camping and spending time in the outdoors, but the pair were last seen alive on the 13th of August 2021. They were last seen at a bar in Morb at 9:30 that night. Witnesses who had seen them at the bar claimed that nobody had followed them out that night. After no one had heard from the pair for a few days, Cailin's father contacted a friend who lived in the area where they were camping. And the father had said down the phone to Cailin's friend that Cailin and Crystal were a little bit concerned about a creeper dude that had been near their campsite. So the friend went to their campsite in the Las Sal Mountains, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And this was on August 18th, 2021, so a couple of days after they'd last been heard from. And when they did this, they actually stumbled across their remains. And the worst part is they were on the phone with Cailin's father as they discovered them. And the friend then contacted the police. Both of them were found undressed from the waist down and in a creek, and they had both been shot to death. And this case was pretty much cold, and it still kind of is. Now, this one is technically unsolved, and I'll explain why in a minute, but there's actually no way we can confirm who did it. And it wasn't until May 2022 when police said that they had a suspect in this case. And this suspect was called Adam. But however, Adam was reported to have left the state and then taken his own life. Adam had also confessed to another killing in that area as well and provided police with details that were not known to the public. The motive for the murder still remains completely unknown, and it's still not clear if this Adam character did actually murder them, and I suppose there's going to be no way to prove it because he's dead. But I just think this one is absolutely heartbreaking, and the pair deserved so much better.
Be careful when you're out. You never know, man. Dangers lurk around each and every single corner. Witness that firsthand. You know, if you're expert level seekers, man, you can see through all the edits.
Y'all, the Watts house has to be haunted, because tell me why the new owners of the Watts house are getting a divorce, and allegedly the dad, the husband, put his hands, or was some type of DV situation, or whatever the case may be, towards the wife. This is crazy. So basically the Watts house was put on the market after Shanann, Bella, and Cece were unalived by Chris Watts. It took a while for the house to sell. It was on the market for a long time. I want to say it was on there for $700,000, right? They went ahead and closed on the house, and for what it seemed like, everything was going well. Well, eventually, there was a report that there was a call from the wife. They also, mind you, have 2 daughters and 1 son. It's very similar to what Shanann and Chris, had. They were going to have a son, and they also had 2 daughters. Anyways, so there was a call of a domestic complaint, and the wife basically said that she felt like her husband was going to put his hands on her. I think he was, either maybe drunk or whatever the case may be. I'm not 100% sure, but there was some type of domestic dispute in the house. Now, he did get arrested, y'all. He did get arrested. I was able to find proof of his arrest. There is a record. Basically, you got to look into, I believe it was Frederick, Colorado. And yeah, it will come up. But anyways, he did get arrested, and they're selling the house. They're getting divorced, selling the house, allegedly. Now the house is back on the market. I'm not 100% sure if it's sold to a new person yet or not, but it's back on the market again. Y'all, I feel like this house needs to be torn down and turned into a memorial at this point, because why is it every time they sell this house, it's getting back on the market?
This is a case that has continued to bother me. Sarah Kinslow was born on June 14th of 1986. She grew up with 3 siblings and 2 loving parents in Greenville, Texas. Growing up, she was very musically inclined. She even entered a women's composer competition, and she won first place. She was known to often do solos at her church, and she was just very talented when it came to music. Sarah was also a very happy child. It was well known that she loved the holidays, especially Christmas. Her parents said that she would wake up super early on Christmas morning and go wake up all of her siblings, and she couldn't contain her excitement to the point where she would grab her stockings and then go and jump in her parents' bed to open everything. But as Sarah started getting older, she started hitting a more rebellious streak. When she turned 14, she started staying out late, sneaking out. Like, she was just being kind of a rebellious teenager, and things seemed to get worse when she met 18-year-old Curtis Wayne Bell. And I don't have a picture of him. I'm sorry about that. Sarah's parents obviously did not approve of this relationship. They did not like Curtis, which is understandable because he was 18 and she was 14. Just the age difference that Sarah's parents didn't agree with. Curtis was also known to be a really not a great dude. He was very involved in drugs, and even Sarah's older brother, he was in jail for unknown reasons, and even he said that the inmates had told him that Curtis was not a good person and his younger sister should. But this did not stop Sarah. In fact, this would lead to a lot of arguments in the home, and even one night Sarah started packing up all of her stuff, and she told her parents that one day she would be gone. On May 1st of 2001, Sarah went to school early that morning. Her dad dropped her off around 7:20. They wanted to go early because Sarah had plans to meet with some of her friends. Sarah's dad left and then went about his day. It wasn't until later when Sarah didn't return home from school, and then the school eventually calling saying that Sarah had never been at school, that her parents got worried. They started questioning her friends and asking all of them where Sarah was. None of them knew where she had gone because they had plans that day to skip school and go to a local cemetery, but Sarah had never shown up, according to her friends. It was after this that Sarah's family decided to report her missing, and at first she was considered a runaway, and her parents agreed that she probably ran away. And it wasn't until all of the friends agreed to take a polygraph test, and all of them failed, that things started to get strange. Now, polygraph tests are not that reliable, but still it is worth noting. That's when police brought in dogs, and the dogs did track Sarah's scent for 2 blocks, but then it disappeared, so they believe that Sarah got into a vehicle. We'll get into more in part 2. Give me a couple minutes to get it up. It'll be down in the comments.
What is the craziest thing that someone's confessed to on their deathbed? Well, a deathbed confession made this year solved a 20-year-old cold case. And this is coming from the Heart Starts Pounding podcast episode that's all about cold cases that were solved this year. So this year in West Virginia, a man named Larry Webb was dying. And before he died, he called a nurse over and said he needed to get it off his chest that he killed a woman and her daughter back in 2000. It turns out that back then, a woman named Susan Carter and her 10-year-old daughter Alex were living with Larry while Susan was in a custody battle with Alex's father. And one day they just disappeared, but because they were together when they disappeared, police assumed that Susan just ran away with her daughter. But Larry confirmed that that's not what happened. The story he gave on his deathbed is that one day he came home to see that Susan was stealing money from him, and so he shot her. And then panicking, he wanted to get rid of all the witnesses, and that included assassinated Alex, her daughter. And to me, the craziest thing in all of this is that Larry had really bad dementia, so when he gave this confession, they weren't really convinced that it was true. But the day after he died, both of their remains were found in his backyard. If you want to hear more on that story and other cold cases that were solved this year, check out the Cold Cases That Were Solved This Year episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
It goes to show you, man. People in their last moments, that's when they want to get the truth off their chest, man. Something about their last moments, man. They just want to go, I guess, into wherever they're about to go, into with peace of mind, but the damage is done. Wonder how many other people, man, who are still holding in their secrets. You know what that is. All day, every day.
What is one true crime case that you just can't stop thinking about? I always wonder what really happened to 6-year-old Catherine Korzilius. On August 7th, 1996, Catherine, along with her mom Nancy and her brother Chris, were out running errands. Catherine's dad was Paul Korzilius, who at the time was the tour manager for John Bon Jovi. That day was Paul's birthday, so they were all out looking for a present for him. They all lived on Elder Circle, which is a small neighborhood near Austin, Texas. When they got back to Elder Circle, Catherine wanted to pick up the mail from the community mailbox and then walk home. The mailboxes were only about 1/8 of a mile from their home, and Catherine had done this a few times before, so her mom let her. Catherine would take the shorter route home, while her mom and brother would take the longer route around Elder Circle. This way, they would be getting home at almost the same time. But once Nancy and Chris got home, with still no sign of Catherine, Nancy sent Chris to go and look for her. But when Chris couldn't find her, Nancy started searching for her by car. Within minutes, they found her laying in the middle of the road on Elder Circle. She was unconscious, but still breathing. According to Nancy, she didn't want to make her daughter lay on the hot pavement, so she picked her up and took her to the hospital. Little Catherine suffered from a fractured skull and never regained consciousness, and sadly, she died later that day. Authorities initially thought that Catherine was a victim of a hit and run, but certain things didn't add up. Where Catherine's body was found was in an unusual spot. Her mom last saw her walking towards their house, but her body was found a little over a mile away from their home in the opposite direction that she was supposed to have gone. Catherine's body was actually found along the route that her mom and brother took to get home, and the autopsy only deepened the mystery. The autopsy showed that Catherine didn't die from a hit and run. Along with her head injury, she also had abrasions on her left shoulder, lower back, right hip, and her knees. The ME found that Catherine had either jumped, fallen, or was thrown from a moving vehicle. One theory investigators came up with was that Catherine maybe tried to hold on to the back of her mom's car on the drive home, but fell off. This would explain the location of where her body was found. But her family did not believe this, so they hired a PI. The PI noted that it was a really hot summer day, and at the time, Catherine's left thumb was broken and in a splint, so it would have been really difficult for her to hold on to anything. And it's likely her mom would have seen her in the rearview mirror. Catherine's family believes she was abducted and murdered. After her death, investigators brought in a canine unit that tracked her scent to a vacant lot 30 yards from the mailboxes, but it was lost after that. This sparked a theory that Catherine was approached by an attacker at the mailboxes, ran into the lot, was caught and thrown into a car, struck in the head, and then was thrown out of the vehicle where she was found. Nancy also stated that it appeared her daughter's body was laid out for her to find. Her hair was smoothed down, her clothes were straight, and her sandals were still on. Unfortunately, there's never been any answers in this case, and it's still labeled a suspicious death. John Bon Jovi wrote a song dedicated to Catherine called August 7, 415. And sadly, in March of 2020, Catherine's brother Chris, who grew up to be a police officer, was tragically killed in a car accident.
It's a mysterious case. It used to be solved.
Hello, true crimers. It's time for another episode of Coldest Cases by State. Today, South Dakota. Brr. So, this is the kind of strange case of Arnold Archambault and Ruby Bruguier. They were actually part of the Yankton Sioux tribe. They were a happy couple and they had just recently had a baby. And then a tragedy happened on December 11th, 1992. So, the two of them had joined Ruby's cousin, Tracy Dion, for a night of partying. Around 6 a.m. on December 12th, they would come home after the night of partying. But because they were still intoxicated, the babysitter, who was actually Tracy's father, said, "Can you please just come back later?" So they got back in the car. Arnold was driving the car. And just a few short minutes after they left the house, they would get involved in a car accident. The car had overturned. This is not the exact car, by the way. The witness would say that Arnold swerved because the road was icy, and then they flipped into this ditch. So this is when it gets kind of strange. Allegedly, Arnold is able to get out of the car, and he fled. Ruby then escapes the car, and she flees. Neither of them apparently help Tracy. When paramedics arrived to the accident, they were able to save Tracy. She was honest. She said, "We've been drinking. I have no idea where my friends went." Police would only speculate that because of DWI laws that maybe they fled because they were scared of being arrested. Their families, however, would say no, they wouldn't do that, especially not to their baby. They searched the woods, and they never found this couple. They literally just poofed into thin air. And they conducted these searches for months. They should have been somewhere in the area. This is a still image pulled from Unsolved Mysteries, where this case actually aired, the OG Unsolved Mysteries. So this isn't the real scene. But in March of 1993, about 3 months later, in the ditch just 75 feet away from where the car accident happened, was the decomposed body of Ruby Bruguier. The ditch had water in it, so the next day they pumped out the water, and in that same area they found the decomposed body of Arnold Archambault. It was only like 15-20 feet away from where Ruby was. You know what's stranger? He wasn't as badly decomposed as Ruby was. They also found a tuft of Ruby's hair at the crime scene, which is very odd. The autopsy would show they died of exposure. A witness said they saw Ruby and Arnold at a New Year's Eve party 3 weeks after the accident. That witness took a polygraph and passed. Police say foul play wasn't involved. Were they murdered? How come they were in the same spot as the car accident, months later? This one is so weird, right?
Yeah. Definitely seems like something, foul play with something was involved. Seekers, that's it, man, for this video for you guys today. If you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker. Thank you guys for seeking the truth with me today. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up on this video. Leave a comment down below. Hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do. Let me break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, usual, and unexplained, you can find right here on the channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man, commenting down below, and most importantly, hitting that thumbs up button on each and every single video drop. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Seek the truth.
You won't believe this kid exists. Aria Pramana weighs over 400 pounds. His family says he doesn't do anything but eat and sleep. His mom said she wanted to find a medical reason why he looked like that. But it turns out Aria was just eating 2 plates 5 times a day. Before I continue, I know an app just like TikTok just in case it gets banned. Link is in my bio. Aria's family has put him on a strict diet ever since. And it's actually working.
I still can't get over the fact that this woman was released from prison after she drugged her little sister, gave her to her husband so he could escort her and take her life. Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka were called the Barbie and Ken killers and committed one of the most horrific crimes together. They tortured and took the lives of these 3 innocent young teens in the early 90s. 15-year-old Kristen French was one of their victims. She was abducted in a church parking lot while Carla pretended to ask her for directions. Paul forced her into their car. In another case, 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey was abducted while she waited outside of her house. This was Carla's younger sister, Tammy, and one day Paul told Carla that he wanted her, so she tricked her sister and gave her to Paul to do whatever he wants with her. The girls were tortured for days and disgusting things were done to them while they videotaped everything. Together, they dismantled their bodies and then threw them in a lake. Now, while Paul got life in prison, Carla was able to walk free after 12 years. But not only that, after her release, she changed her name and she was caught working at a private elementary school in Montreal. Her job was to supervise kindergarten students, and when their parents found out, they were pissed off. And I don't blame them, because I wouldn't want this person looking after my children either. This was one of the biggest cases in the world, especially in Canada, because of how disturbing their crimes were. People are still confused on how Carla was able to get such a good deal while Paul was denied parole 3 times and will most likely spend the rest of his life in prison.
Here are some kids' toys
Justice
that
system.
got banned for being too dangerous. This toy, called a Jibba Jabber. The object of this toy was to beat it up. It was pulled from the shelves after being linked to making kids want to strangle each other. Pokemon and Burger King partnered up and made these tiny keychain Pokeballs with no holes in it for like a child to breathe that might try to eat the toy, because that's what kids do. They just eat tiny things. Kids fucking died from these. Moon shoes were like these half buckets with rubber bands and Velcro to keep your feet attached to them. And it was capable of launching a child like feet into the air. So many kids broke their ankles and cracked their skulls because of these. I remember I got them for Christmas and then my parents immediately took them away. This Quick Click Polly Pocket set were tiny pieces of plastic with magnets embedded into them. Sounds yummy. Definitely not like we're taking a trip to the hospital.
Those kids, man. With those toys, I didn't even know about the moon shoes. I think I remember seeing them. All those discontinued toys, man. It goes to show you, man. When people think there's money involved, man, they really don't think about the safety, man. The kids of their product.
Wholesome facts that'll make your day slightly better. Part 2. If you've already made it to the airport without dying, you shouldn't be nervous about flying, because you've already made it through the deadliest part of plane travel. Whenever you pet an animal, it actually lowers your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. Side note, this may not work on electric eels, porcupines, or anything that could decimate you in 2 seconds.
You think?
Because guinea pigs get lonely, it's actually illegal in Switzerland to own just one. You have to get at least 2 if you want to have any at all. Sometimes tarantulas will keep tiny frogs as pets. The frogs will eat small insects that would typically eat the tarantula eggs, and in exchange, the frog gets a pretty damn good bodyguard. Capybara Land is a place in Japan where you can quite literally hang out with capybaras and see them chilling in hot springs. If 99% of the world's population finds you unattractive, that would mean that 78 million people still find you attractive.
You gotta change, man. 1 in 78 million. Get out there. You know what this is, man. Expert level.
Ants can live a really long time. Like, way longer than I thought. Your normal everyday ant can live like 4 to 15 years. And there have been queens on record living up to 28 years. Next time I have to step on an ant, I'm really going to be like mourning their whole ass life. This is the hog-nosed snake, and when it feels threatened, it'll puff itself up and hiss at you. But if that doesn't work, it'll flip itself over and play dead. And if you take the snake and flip it from its back to its belly, it'll just flip itself back over. Like, no, I'm supposed to be dead. Penguins are able to drink salt water like it's fresh water because they have this gland behind their eyes that actually filters their blood and allows them to sneeze the salt out. Now, I'm not saying that we need to hire a bunch of penguins to save the world or whatever, but it's an option.
Happy feet
The
domination,
rarest
man.
things in the world. Rarest animal for keto, only 10 left in the wild. Rarest gem on earth, painite, worth $60,000 per carat. Rarest poker hand, the royal flush, 1 in 655,000 chance. Rarest element on earth, as the time, less than 1 gram on earth exists. Rarest car, Ferrari 250, Gran Turismo.
These are some of the most terrifying illnesses that you could get tomorrow.
Giants caught on tape, part 1. People used to tell stories about ancient giants who used to walk around the earth with humans. Some people say they lived with us as friends, and some say they ate us. These giants were called Nephilim, mentioned in the Bible. This is supposed to be a picture in 1890 of one of them. And yes, this is real footage of him walking around Japan in a parade. Look how big he is compared to all the little people. Even the horses. Look at him towering over everybody. How much does this guy need to eat to be full? So what do you guys think? Is this fake? Or are they real, hiding in places we'll just never be able to find? I got more giant.
Think giants are out there, man? Maybe back in the day, I guess they were like so tall, people considered them giants. I guess that's my only explanation to explain that.
Footage, so like this video for a part 2.
Crazy facts about cigarettes. One cigarette can reduce your lifespan up to 11 minutes. Out of 10 smokers, 9 started before age 18. A smoker's life expectancy is 10 years less than a non-smoker. When a cigarette is burned, 7,000 chemicals are activated. Nauru has the highest smoking rate at 52%.
Imagine
Don't smoke.
finding a box that someone chained shut and threw into the ocean. Curious about what could be inside it, you take the box home and leave it in your shed. But as you're having dinner, you hear noises outside your front door. And when you open the door to check, you see that the box is somehow right there. Who's out there, you yell, thinking someone must have taken it from the shed and dropped it at your front door. You bring the box inside and put it on your table, and that's when you see the box is moving by itself. That's enough, you tell yourself, and you throw the box outside and go to sleep. But in the middle of the night, you suddenly wake up with something stuck inside your throat. You rush to the bathroom, coughing uncontrollably until you spit out a key. Confused and terrified, you leave the bathroom only to see an even more unbelievable sight. The box has somehow appeared in the middle of your hallway. So do you use the key to open the box and finally find out what's inside of it? This short film is called Mystery Box, and it was such a strange and unique story that I really enjoyed. Definitely check this one out and follow for more.
I ain't checking that box out, bro. Throwing it right back. Especially after seeing that key. Nothing good could come from opening that box, bro. I'm good on that. Deuces.
This surveillance camera caught this 73-year-old's final moments before he was murdered by this man over a $20,000 Rolex. And you guys won't believe this, but this guy who took his life did this all because he wanted to gift his girlfriend something nice for Christmas. This all happened last month when 56-year-old Nenad Milosevic met with his friend 73-year-old Anthony at around 10 p.m. at night. Anthony owned a jewelry store in Fort Lauderdale, and on that night, surveillance footage shows them entering the building and then taking the elevator to go upstairs to his shop after they went out for dinner. Apparently, Nenad wanted to buy jewelry for his girlfriend for Christmas, but things went horribly wrong. After entering the shop on the 3rd floor, Nenad was seen leaving 2 hours later on his own, carrying a bag and something covered with a towel. Anthony was reported missing on September 20th, but his body was found 3 days later in his shop by police, and the autopsy showed that he had injured his neck, back, and head. Eventually, he did admit to murdering his 73-year-old friend and to stealing 20 pieces of jewelry, which he ended up throwing over a bridge. Nenad was eventually charged with 2nd-degree murder.
All over some jewelry.
The gunfire captured at the end of that clip took the life of 26-year-old Melisha Jackson and her 1-year-old son, Isaac. On December 17, 2019, Melisha and Isaac were just hanging out in their home. And that's when a group of masked men approached the back of the home. 3 men then opened fire into the back door of the home and killed Melisha and Isaac. Sadly, Isaac was actually in his mother's arms when they were both shot and killed. Just a few days after the shooting, this man, Thomas Anthony Henderson, was announced as a suspect. At the time of the shooting, he was still a teenager. Thomas is currently still in prison for this crime, but there are 2 other men that were involved in the shooting that were never brought to justice. If you know anything about the murders of Melisha or Isaac Jackson, please contact local authorities, because this story is absolutely horrific. These 2 were just hanging out at home. The gunmen were trying to target someone involved in a gang, but these 2 were not the intended targets, and in fact, the initial target wasn't even shot. Also, if you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast that my wife and I co-host, Murder in America, available on all streaming platforms.
To think we were actually impressed when this first came out in 2023. Extremely grainy and chaotic, with each clip only being like 2 seconds long. Not to mention the backgrounds, movements, and pretty much everything going on in the videos is just totally warped and doesn't
visually make any sense. More of a bad trip than a realistic simulation, but it's a start. Then in 2024, we get a serious update. It's looking much better. Full HD, and there's a sort of consistency in the video where things aren't just morphing in and out of shape anymore. You'll still notice some movements that are kind of creepy and jerky, or objects that just forget how they were supposed to be oriented. Overall, it still has a very uncanny type of feel to it. Like, we can obviously tell what we're looking at isn't real life, but now, 2025 just brought it to a whole new level. Actually, no, this is a real video Will Smith took himself in 2024 as a parody to all the AI videos of him eating spaghetti. But it does give us a sort of control test of what we're working towards, because this is AI Will Smith eating spaghetti in 2025. The future is here. Huge improvements over...
Man, it's scary, bro. Like how AI is constantly keep getting better and better and better. Then each year you ain't gonna be able to tell the difference no more. And people are already getting fooled now. Just imagine like 10 or 20 years from now, you can't distinguish a real video from a fake video. It's getting scary out here,
for 2024. At first glance, it almost looks 100% real. But if you look really close, you'll see a few unnatural movements and subtle transformations that just don't make much sense. But clearly, we're making great progress, and soon enough, we're going to be able to generate videos of anyone doing anything, and we're not even going to be able to tell whether they're real or AI. Hold up, should we be concerned?
You won't believe how this mother lost her daughter. Jeannie Diddy had a daughter named Macy Gray. They looked so happy together, and one day she said her 2-year-old choked on a banana. Sadly, her daughter passed away. Jeannie was so heartbroken that she had these pictures made. It was her grieving with the ghost of her daughter. Sometimes things aren't what they seem. Turns out that she only got those photos made to look innocent. Jeannie and her boyfriend Zach actually abused her daughter. Winded up killing her. Rest in peace, Macy.
Pictures, man. Never tell the full story.
This person is from? What about this person? Or this person? You might have guessed these people to be Indigenous Australians, or perhaps people of the Pacific Islands, or even Africans. But they're actually members of various Adivasi tribes found in India. The people I showed you were specifically part of the Irula and Anya tribes. Now, according to the Out-of-Africa theory, humans first entered South Asia or India around 70,000 years ago. We refer to the people that formed a hunter-gatherer society in South Asia as the AASI. All South Asians partially descend from these early Homo sapiens that entered the subcontinent. Apparently, around 22% of my own DNA is derived from these ancient people. But the reason these tribal communities in India are so fascinating is because up to 70% of their DNA is derived from the AASI. And so some refer to them as the Indigenous people of India, a debated title.
Other than that, I never guessed they were, I guess, from that part of the world. Goes to show you, man. People, man, you can't judge them based on how they look. You never know where they come from. You know what that is.
Could these be zombie hands? Hello, my friend. My name is Aslan, and today we're looking at something called dead man's fingers, also known as Zolaria polymorphia. Believe it or not, this is actually a fungus. As you probably guessed, it gets the name dead man's fingers from the fact that it looks like a zombie hand reaching out of the ground. Funny enough, it actually grows around the base of dying trees. This picture is probably the creepiest to me because it looks like the toes of a corpse. And that's our first episode of Spooky Season.
It does look like Dead Man's Hands.
6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boost, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Boost, 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 moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. If your eyes drop, they will get the top of you. Boost, 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 moving up and down There's no stars in the wall.
Did y'all know cruise
So
ship
Jane
graveyards
Doe?
were a thing? Because if you didn't, you do now. A cruise ship graveyard is, get this, a graveyard for cruise ships. And it's just a bunch of absolutely massive ships in a water yard just chilling there because they're not being used and will never be used ever again because they're either damaged or whatever. Could you imagine exploring this place at night? You would have to pay me $1 million to go anywhere close to these. Do you know how big these things are? So this is like a modern cruise ship, okay? Like, look how massive this thing is. Like, we're gonna focus right there in the pool area, okay? That's how tiny the people are in comparison to this gigantic ship. Looking at that again, and then that. No thank you. And also, this is the size of the Titanic in comparison to a modern day cruise ship, which is about 4 times as big. And we all know how big Titanic was. Why these people? Are those children or are those? No, those are adults. Oh my God, look how big they are. It's small. Look how small they are in comparison to this gigantic bottom of the ship. This photo made my stomach drop into the pit of my butt when I saw it this morning. I actually kind of love this. I love this for her, this goat chilling with this dog in front of a ship graveyard. I would not be joining the goat. I just want to know what these people are on to be able to get in kayaks and go anywhere near these abandoned ships. Like, that's just horrific. Could you go in a kayak and go anywhere near these abandoned ships? And here's the inside of one of the cruise ships when it was turned sideways. Look at that, is nauseating. Like, imagine being on a cruise ship and it starts sinking and then you go outside and you see this in the hallway. Titanic all over again. This is so scary. So yeah, anyway, how are we feeling about these ship graveyards? Would you go near them?
No!
If you walk into this forest, you might never walk out. At least, that's what the legend says. This creepy slideshow that I got tagged in shows an image of a strange clearing in a forest, some images of UFOs that many people actually believe are real, and finally mentions the name of the forest, the Hoia Baciu. The Hoia Baciu is located in Romania, or Transylvania to be precise, and it's long been thought to be one of the most paranormal places on the earth. This forest is very old, however trees look very young, and as you can see, they have a lot of very weird curves and formations. And many people that are born in this area are warned never step foot in the forest because evil presences live there. It's rumored that many people that have walked into the forest have never come out, so it's kind of like a Bermuda Triangle, and even time travel has been involved here. With people that have gone missing for years on end, suddenly reappear, they don't remember where they were, but they look the exact same. Personally, I think that I would go into this, or at least take a tour of this forest, but what about you guys?
See, could y'all going into there? I see there's like a whole area where there's nothing but grass and it's in the whole circle. Nah, I'm good, love. Yeah, I got that. I take heed of the warnings. Yeah, I know why the people didn't.
Creepy urban legends from each state, Part 1, Arizona.
The ghost of Slaughterhouse Canyon. During the 1800s, there was a family who lived in the canyon. They were very poor, so the father would venture out into the canyon for food for his family. As you might have guessed, one day the father did not return, so his family slowly starved and descended into madness. The mother, unable to bear listening to her children cry anymore, put on her wedding dress, murdered the children, and threw them into a nearby river. The next day, she succumbed to starvation herself. The legend states that if you go down to Slaughterhouse Canyon at night, even now you will hear loud, anguished cries of the mother who lost her mind.
Stay from Slaughterhouse Canyon. Noted.
She says, it's his fingers. Yeah, I've seen his fingers.
A father confesses in detail the horrific moment his infant was being eaten alive by rats.
What do you think the explanation is? In your mind, what do you think it is? Instantly, what's the rats?
50 rat bites. That's how many bites a poor 6-month-old baby had all over his body after his parents left rats to nearly eat him alive.
I've seen blood everywhere, his diaper was half hanging off of him. I haven't seen his hands on it. He went to the bathroom and took a washcloth, like with a nosebleed. She says, it's his fingers. I haven't seen his fingers. Most of the fingers, yes. He had marks on his head. Right. Were those marks new or they're in there? They're okay. What do you think the explanation is? In your mind, what do you think it is? Instantly, what's the rest?
The infant was left in a pool of blood with his tiny finger fingers gnawed down to the bone. He nearly died from blood loss and is now permanently disfigured.
That's the only extra thing in that room all night. Anybody ever been bit before? No. By rat? Anybody? Any kids? You? No. Rat me? No.
He was living in a true house of horrors. It was in deplorable conditions, infested with rats and full of clutter, trash, bugs, and feces. The baby's mauling wasn't the first rat attack at the home. 3 other children had previously been bitten while sleeping. The Indiana Department of Child Services had provided aid to address safety concerns beforehand. The father has denied these allegations.
There's never been none of those children been bitten by rats during the night, or at all.
Prosecutors said the baby's father, David Schoenebaum, failed to address issues that would have provided the children with a safe environment to live in.
But specifically, when you pick him up, you see the injuries, you immediately think in your mind, you're like, rats did this. There's nothing else could have caused this. Yeah.
David Schoenebaum was sentenced to 16 years in prison after a jury convicted him of 3 felonies related to the neglect and endangerment of his children. His wife, Angel Schoenebaum, and Schoenebaum's sister-in-law, Delana Thurman, was given probation. We hope in some way the baby can heal from this traumatizing incident.
After watching this movie, I am realizing that we need to bring back haunted object horror movies because look at this. Freaky as hell. So I got to see an early screening of The Monkey, which comes out February 21st, and it's not because I am cool, it's because Justin over at Slaughterhouse Talk is very cool, and he got a private screening, and I was like, hello, can I tag along? And I didn't really know anything about the movie other than the fact that it's based on a short story from Stephen King, and it's brought to us by Osgood Perkins, who also brought us Long Legs. And if you're expecting something like Long Legs, wipe your mind of that baby, because it is nothing like that. The gist of the movie is about these twin brothers who have this inherited haunted monkey toy thing, and when he bangs his little drum, crazy things happen. I went into this thinking it was going to be like Long Legs, like very dreadful and very serious. No, it is bonkers and batshit crazy and bloody and gory and hilarious. It's a horror comedy. I didn't know that. And I know the trailer shows a ton of the death scenes, but I promise you, that's not even that half of it. I do have to warn you though, because this is a horror comedy, a lot of these death scenes are like very gratuitous and very over the top. So just keep an open mind that this is like a very just fun, silly, unserious movie when it comes to that. Overall, I gave The Monkey 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. This one's just a fun one. You can sit back, turn your brain off, and enjoy all the chaotic craziness that's going on.
And you seekers gonna go check that out, man. Like I said, y'all know I don't watch scary movies like that, so y'all gotta see it. Drop your reviews down below. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up in this video. Hit that post notification bell, man, so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. Guys, gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man, commenting down below. Really appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Seek the truth.
This 17-year-old boy died after a 911 dispatcher says, "Deal with it yourself." In 2015, a teenage girl named Esperanza made a 911 call after her friend Jaden was shot in a drive-by shooting at a house party. Matthew Sanchez, the dispatcher who answered the call, quit his job after the following audio clip was released to the public.
I'm keeping him alive. Okay, is he not breathing? Barely. There's one of us. There's okay, one of us. Yes. There you go, James. Good job. Just stay with me, okay? Okay? There you go. Good job, James. Is he breathing? He's barely breathing. How many times did tell you? Okay, you know what, ma'am? You can deal with yourself. I'm not gonna deal with this, okay? No, my friend is dying.
That is cold-blooded stuff right there. Stand the rich. Okay.
Lorraine came. She was very sweet. She started to issue warnings to me.
I knew the house was haunted. All I had to do was walk in it.
I told her about some of the things that had happened. I woke to the smell of smoke in my bedroom. And then there was Bathsheba. This is when she put the curse on me. What she said at the last of it is, next time we meet, ye too be dead.
Oh, what the hell? See, cause y'all believe that? She woke up, she smelled smoke. She said she knew the house was haunted the moment she stepped foot inside of it. I can't see how, man, people, when they know a place is haunted and they still live there, I can't deal with those spirits.
Unusual Deaths in Human History, Part 1. A little under a month ago, the body of a 39-year-old man was discovered hanging upside down inside the leg of a papier-mâché stegosaurus. He crawled inside head first, trying to retrieve his phone, but got trapped, causing him to experience a slow, painful death. In 2019, a Sri Lankan man was trampled to death by a wild elephant after jumping out of his car and attempting to hypnotize it. In 2016, a 10-year-old boy named Caleb Schwab was decapitated when he was ejected from his ride on Verrucht, a 168-foot-tall water slide at Schlitterbahn Water Park. In late 2019, a family in Iowa was trying to make a viral gender reveal to announce the sex of their baby. The family proceeded to fill a steel umbrella stand with gunpowder, inadvertently making a pipe bomb, causing 56-year-old Pamela Kremeyer to be hit in the head with shrapnel, killing her instantly.
There's some crazy ways to go out.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. I feel happy and fine, living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot, coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Who was that behind that man? Haunted picture?
I will show you the video as well. Hi, my name is Ethan and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. The YouTuber 29-year-old Trevor Jacobs has a channel with about 140,000 subscribers. He is known to post adventure content such as skydiving, skating, etc. On Christmas Eve of 2021, he posted his second to last YouTube video ever titled I Crashed My Plane. Here is the video.
Holy I'm over the mountains and I get out an engine out.
Jacob submitted a false report and claimed, and I quote, aircraft experienced a full loss of power approximately 35 minutes after takeoff. Investigators later found out he faked the entire thing and he's now being faced up to 20 years in prison.
That's what clout will do to you, man. You're chasing those numbers, man, you would do the most ridiculous things. Like faking an airplane crash just for some views, and look at the consequences he's facing, man. That story sounds like, bro, you wouldn't even believe it, man. You had to see that in 4K, bro. You wouldn't even believe it if you heard something like that.
Here, Gypsy Rose Blanchard will be released from prison. If you know the case, you know in 2016, Gypsy was sentenced to 10 years for the murder of her mother. She's since gotten married in prison and made parole, with her release date scheduled for December 31st, 2023. According to prosecutors, many of the decisions made in Gypsy's case have come from an understanding that she believed she was seriously sick. But as we now know, it was all fabricated by her mother Dee Dee for sympathy and attention. By 2010, Gypsy had become aware that she wasn't 14 like her mother said, she was 19. Aware but terrified, Gypsy almost never left the Springfield home that was built specifically for her and Dee Dee. But she would stay up late in the house on her computer. In 2012, Gypsy secretly met Nick on a Christian dating site. He had been diagnosed with autism in grade school, and after an initial meeting, the couple began to develop a plan. In June of 2015, Gypsy let Nick into her home and provided him with gloves, duct tape, and a knife. She then sat in the bathroom covering her ears as Nick stabbed her sleeping mother in the back 17 times. Once it was over, the couple had sex in Gypsy's room. Then they stole $4,000 and fled to the motel where Nick was staying just outside of Springfield. From here, Gypsy and Nick mailed the murder weapon to his place in Wisconsin. They followed closely behind on a bus, with Gypsy admitting that at this point she thought they had gotten away with it. But of course they didn't. On June 14th, Gypsy also posted this to Facebook. This obviously led to a welfare check where police found Dee Dee's body and Gypsy's empty wheelchair. The immediate thought was that Gypsy had been abducted, helpless without her medications and support equipment. In the end, it was one of Gypsy's neighbors who told police what she knew about her online boyfriend. Police tracked the IP address from her Facebook account, and this led them directly to the couple in Wisconsin. Gypsy ended up taking a plea deal and was sentenced to 10 years, while Nick was sentenced to life. As one doctor had suspected before, Dee Dee was the one who was actually sick. So again, today Gypsy is up for parole. She got married in prison last year, but the couple has reportedly split after just 4 months. Unfortunately, Gypsy's friends and family are concerned about her release, saying she needs to change her behavior, refuses help, and could end up back in prison. As of March 1st, a judge has denied Nick's motion for a new trial.
You know how that played out with Gypsy. She out now.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all these on Reddit. Number 1, the Russian dead hand. Now I already hear you saying it. What's the Russian dead hand? Well, the Russian dead hand is an extremely realistic end to the Earth as we know it. If Russia's government ever gets overthrown or they detect a nuclear threat, they have a protocol called... Now, if you didn't like hearing those, I'm sorry. That's why.
Russian dead hand.
This is what happened to 14-year-old Norma Lisbeth and how she was killed after getting into a fight with her school bully. Norma Lisbeth Ramos was a 14-year-old girl that lived in Teotihuacan, Mexico. She was the youngest of 3. She had an older sister named Alma and an older brother named Omar. Now, we don't really know much about Norma, but her friends and family say that she used to be filled with so much happiness and life. She wanted to grow up, she wanted to become a nurse and help others. However, as Norma started to grow up, that light and happiness once inside of her started to quickly fade. This is because Norma was being bullied at school. Some of her friends have come forward and said that the bullying started all the way in elementary school. People would make fun of her skin color, they would call her morenita, they would make fun of the fact that she had curly hair. The kids were brutal to her, and most of the aggression came from another student named Asara Eileen. It seemed like Asara was obsessed with bullying and tormenting Norma. She would make fun of Norma's skin color, she would make fun of the fact that Norma's family didn't have a lot of money. She would even tell the other students, if you try to be nice to Norma, if you try to talk to her, if you try to be her friend, we're also going to bully you. Asara would hype up the other students, and the minute that Norma would step foot onto campus, the bullying would immediately begin. She would walk into a classroom and people would actually throw things at her. But the few friends that Norma had came forward and told reporters that a couple of the classmates had actually threatened to physically assault Norma. One day, Norma went to the school bathroom and a couple of her classmates walked in and they tried to beat her up. Norma tried to put an end to it, and the classmates told her, if you snitch on us, then we will assault you. It seemed like the whole school was against her, so Norma actually did speak up and she told her professors about what was going on. She told them about the taunting, about the bullying, about the threats, but nothing was done about it. In fact, one of her teachers told her, girls will be girls. Basically tried to make it seem that this is what teenage girls do, that they bully each other, that they make fun of each other, and that that's just how things are. However, it wasn't just girls that were bullying Norma, it was the boys in the class as well. Literally everybody would taunt her, and on February 20th, 2023, Norma's main bully, Asara, confronted her and told her that the next day, on February 21st, she wanted to meet her outside of the school to get into a physical fight. And she told Norma that she better show up. Of course, Norma was scared, so she tried to tell the director of the school about the fight, but the director did not listen to her. The director told her, "Can you give me a moment? I'm really busy," and she turned around and ignored Norma. Norma just didn't know what to do. She had already told the professors about the bullying. She had told the director of the school, but no one cared. So she...
But nothing specific that she could put her finger on. She said that she lost all attraction to him and knew that she should keep her distance. A month or two later, their teacher announced that the guy had been arrested for murdering a girl he was dating. Reddit user Helios21 said that he was at a club on a boardwalk with some buddies in Puerto Rico. He said that he just didn't feel right and he told them that they should leave. They fussed and moaned, but eventually they all left. Before they even hit the parking lot, a massive shootout broke out inside the club. The front door guy was shot to death and a few of the people inside were as well. It was literal pandemonium, people screaming and running everywhere. The ride back to their place was quiet, but they all knew they got really lucky that night. Reddit user BreakTD said that over 20 years ago, when he was 17 or so, two of his buddies came to pick him up to get the night started. He got in the back of their car, but as soon as he sat down, He had a feeling of impending doom rush over him. He said that he had never felt that feeling before, and never felt it since. He immediately asked to be let out with some excuse and said that they would catch up later. He got out, and he said the feeling quickly faded, so he went on about his day. About 2 hours later, he catches up with some other friends, and they immediately tell him that the two friends that came to pick him up earlier were involved in a major car accident. Both were seriously hurt and in the hospital. The accident happened about 10 minutes after they tried to pick him up. They both survived. The car did not survive though. It was struck in the passenger side rear right, where he would have been sitting. Reddit user BreakTD said that he was pretty positive after seeing the damage done that he would not have survived.
Man, you really gotta trust your gut, bro. Your gut take you far, man. Sometimes it's like, bro, you can't explain it. Your body can just sense it, man, that something not right, something doesn't feel right. Trust that feeling. It will take you far.
This is the most horrifying chimpanzee attack that you might ever hear. James and LaDonna Davis, aged 62, never had children of their own. So when they adopted Mo, a chimpanzee baby stolen from the wilds of Tanzania, they were over the moon. Mo the chimpanzee was more than a surrogate child to them. He was their child. He wanted for nothing. He had the finest of clothing and toys and food. And he had a dark side. Mo had begun to show aggression, but when he bit a woman's fingers off at his birthday party, that was it. The Davises tried to hide it and deal with it out of court, but the state got involved, and they came and offered an ultimatum. They were offered an ultimatum: surrender Mo to a local rehabber or go to jail. They considered jail. Mo then went to live with Animal Haven, a wonderful sanctuary in the area. The owner, knowing exactly how much Mo meant to the Davises, allowed them to visit as they could. And every year, they brought a birthday cake and they celebrated with their chimpanzee son, Mo. The 40th birthday party was a real doozy. Mo was at a picnic table enjoying his birthday cake when two of his chimpanzee cronies broke out of their enclosure and began to attack the Davises viciously. They went directly for James. They only bit LaDonna's finger off when she tried to get involved and help her husband. The screams of the humans present mixed with that of the chimpanzees to a violent, horrifying crescendo. The chimpanzees held James down and bit off his fingers first. They worked on his toes, then they took his nose, his ear, and finally, his genitals. They emasculated James in front of his wife. They were able to separate James from the chimpanzees and get them in their lockout. James lived. Some say Mo wasn't involved in the attack, and some say otherwise. We don't know exactly why the chimpanzees attacked the Davises that day. Was it jealousy, perhaps, not being included in the fun? Believe it or not, this story gets even crazier. Because of the fallout, Mo is transferred to a new facility, Jungle Exotics, and 2 years later, he breaks out and goes on a rampage in California. A manhunt ensues. If you would like a part 2, let me know in the comments. And if you haven't followed yet, what's taking you so long? Thank you, friends.
That story doesn't even sound real until I saw that picture. I thought it was cat. Yeah, he definitely lost his mind. He was crazy.
Oh, you're so traumatized, it makes me want to cry. You dumb bitch.
The Hello Kitty murder. Fan was a young woman from Hong Kong. Unfortunately, at a young age, she developed a very strong drug addiction. She would do absolutely anything, including selling her body in order to make money to fund this addiction. Then her early 20s came around and she tried to make some very good changes in her life. She ended up becoming a hostess for a nightclub. While she was at this nightclub, she would connect with a man who was all get rid of the smell and then dispose of him. They then got to her head and boiled it. They waited till the skin was soft enough to peel off, and they did just that. They would dispose of the skin and the flesh, but they kept the skull. They would then place the skull inside of a mermaid Hello Kitty doll. Eventually, due to a tip that came in from the police from one of Chen Man Look's ex-girlfriends, they were caught. They were only charged with manslaughter because the police couldn't tell if she had died due to her drug issues or the injuries. So the 3 men involved were charged with manslaughter with a chance of parole in 20 years.
This is the haunting true story of Jennifer's solution. Jennifer Pan was an Olympic caliber figure skater and straight-A student who won many scholarships and early acceptance to college. Her parents had high expectations and wanted Jennifer to do well in college so that she could become a successful pharmacist. But this all changed in 2010 when police received a horrifying phone call.
What's your name? My name is Jennifer. Door just broke in? Door broke in and I heard shots like pops. I don't know what's happening. I'm tied upstairs.
Jennifer made this disturbing call to police right after she witnessed 3 men break into her home and murder her mother and leave her father fatally injured. But the next day, when Jennifer was being interviewed by police, she admitted that she was the one to hire the killers. Jennifer then told the officers that her parents were putting so much pressure on her to succeed that the only way she could get freedom was by hiring 3 hitmen to kill them and make it look like a home invasion.
2 men have recently been arrested in connection with the disappearance of 14-year-old Andrew Gosden, and this 15-year-old mystery might be a bit closer to being solved. Andrew Gosden was born on the 10th of July 1993 and lived with his family in a suburb of South Yorkshire. Andrew was known for being a gifted student with a 100% attendance record at his school. He also used to be a Cub Scout, but a few months before he disappeared, he told his father that he didn't want to involve himself with the group anymore. Andrew's family described him as a home bird, and though he had a small group of friends, he was perfectly happy being on his own. In fact, Andrew's family actually said that he didn't really socialize outside of school. He loved video games and metal music, which you can see in a lot of the photos because he's wearing metal shirts. In the year 2007, when Andrew was 14 and just going back to school that September, he actually broke his routine and acted out of character a few times. Twice he had walked home from school rather than taking the school bus, which was 4 miles and would have taken him an hour and 20 minutes. And on the morning of the 14th, he seemed a bit more irritable than normal and had trouble waking up, which was unusual, as his mother said. At 8:05 that morning, he left his house and was seen walking across the local park to his usual bus stop. But instead of taking the bus, he walked to a local cash machine and withdrew 200 pounds out of his bank account. He only had 214 pounds in his account, but the cash machine only let him take out 20s. He was then captured on CCTV footage returning home and placing his school uniform in the washing machine. He then changed into more casual clothes and took his keys, wallet, and a portable PlayStation console. He hadn't taken his passport or ID, and he left behind 100 pounds in cash that he had saved up from his birthday. He soon walked to the local train station and purchased a one-way ticket to London, which cost $31.40. A return ticket was just 50 cents more, but Andrew insisted on buying just the single ticket. After getting on the train, he arrived in London at King's Cross Station at 11:20 a.m. and was captured on CCTV footage leaving the main entrance. This was the last time he was ever seen. Now, in the years since Andrew's disappearance, there have been so many theories about what happened. One of the most popular ones is that maybe he was talking to somebody online and got groomed and went to go meet them and just never returned. But of course, there's not really any evidence for this theory or any theory. There's not really evidence for anything. Well, that is until just recently. In December of 2021, detectives investigating the case actually arrested 2 men on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking in relation to Andrew's case. Both men have been released while the investigation is continuing, but isn't this absolutely terrifying? For years, Andrew's family and the rest of the world have wanted answers, and though we did want answers, this is not welcoming news. However, it does lead to the possibility that Andrew could still be out there somewhere. Hopefully, there will be some more answers soon.
Seems like he just disappeared. Dropped off the face of the earth, but that's not what happened.
2
Something more sinister. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you guys follow me on my social medias. Hit the like button. Hit the post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, you too.